Not many multiplayer games are still active 15 years after their initial release, let alone have an online community that still fervently talks about them. That's what makes Team Fortress 2 a special title in video game history, and the vast majority of players are perfectly fine people with normal lives who don't harm anyone. That being said, in any community, you have a few bad apples. This wouldn't be a Degenerates video without them. So today, we'll be covering two of the most infamous cases of perversion in the TF2 community. I know we usually cover at least a handful of people in the Degenerates videos, but with how expansive, intricate, and quite frankly horrific these cases are, I simply won't have time to get to anyone else. These are the TF2 Degenerates. Trading in-game items has been a central part of TF2 for over a decade at this point, so much so that, like other Valve games such as CSGO, an entire economy has developed around buying, selling, and trading them. From outfits to weapons, hats, the rarest of the rare items, usually only obtainable through insane luck with loot boxes, can go for 5 figures. TF2 was actually the first online multiplayer game to ever implement microtransactions for in-game cosmetics, to not only rake in profits for themselves, but to create a second-hand economic ecosystem around their game, with players bargaining against one another to get the most digital swag bang for their buck. But for trading to take place efficiently, there need to be platforms to enable it, which is where item trading websites come in. Their bots can conduct trades automatically, as well as mitigate the risk of being scammed, because the website handles the transaction. One such website, which has been around since 2012, is Scrapt.tf, created by Jesse Cardone and Joshua Coffey, also known as Geel. These two also own Marketplace.tf, which was founded in 2013, which, as the name suggests, is a marketplace for buying and selling TF2 items. In 2017, they would further expand their holdings by acquiring Backpack.tf, a site for, among other things, checking the market value of various items, as it can be otherwise convoluted to keep up to date with what they're worth so you can make sensible trades and transactions. Suffice to say, Jesse and Geel have just shy of a monopoly on the TF2 trading economy. Sure, there are other trading sites out there that you can use, but those three are the biggest by a long shot. It's safe to assume this dominant position in the market is making them heaps of cash, and if I were Jesse or Geel, I'd be very paranoid about protecting that position. But back to Scrap.tf. Although the main functionality of the website are its trading bots for whatever trading-related tasks users want to facilitate, it isn't limited to that. It has forum and chat functionality, making it a place for people to just hang out, which resulted in a small community forming around the site. As it turns out, the site devs and mods weren't contributing to a beneficial and safe culture in said community. The first red flag was that NSFW content was allowed in chats with no age barrier or age verification mechanism. In 2020, allegations would be made with depraved implications far further than reckless moderation. Members of the Scrapt.tf staff, men in their early 20s mind you, had allegedly been grooming teenage boys. However, this all started long before 2020. Let's rewind to 2015. The first controversy involving Scrap.tf was what has been termed the footrest incident. Back in 2015, someone leaked a lewd image of Jesse's boyfriend at the time, who went by Luna, mostly naked, with the phrase, "Jesse's footrest" written on his chest. The issue at hand was whether Luna was a minor at the time the photo was taken, with the implication being that Jesse had pressured him into it, considering what was written on his chest. But according to Jesse, they started dating when he was 19 and Luna was 17, and the photo was supposedly taken only once he was of age. Others believe Jesse could have been slightly older and Luna slightly younger, but without an exact date, it's hard to tell. And at the same time, a 17-year-old and a 19-year-old dating is hardly something to throw a fit about, right? Nonetheless, this image brought plenty of ridicule upon Jesse because, well, his strange proclivities were on full display for the entire world to see. Jesse evidently did not like this one bit, as anyone who mentioned the footrest incident was banned on site, and that's the policy on Scrap.tf to this day. Problem was, a lot of the Jesse hate wasn't happening on Scrap.tf, but elsewhere, such as on 4chan and the Team Fortress 2 general thread. If only there was a way to identify all of these people and ban them so they'd never come over to Scrap.tf to cause trouble. Well, there was a way, and it was coincidentally exactly what Geel, the co-founder of the site, ended up doing. Geel set up a raffle with valuable items and invited people from TF2 General to join it. The catch was that it was a honeypot. Everyone who enrolled in the raffle would end up getting banned with either no reason given, or the reason being you fell victim to a trap. Many people who weren't even aware of the footrest incident and had no beef with Scrap.tf were also banned in the process, which was viewed as unfair moderation and drew more attention upon the drama in the process. Since the age of the person in the photo was up for debate, this instance mostly shed light on Jesse's questionable, though potentially harmless tastes, and was mostly just an embarrassment for Jesse and the site. Some found it strange and wanted to make fun of him for it, but ultimately no harm, no foul. That being said, it also showed the lengths they were willing to go to protect their image, since, even though Jesse claimed to have done nothing wrong, or illegal, he was adamant about erasing any trace of the footrest incident. It wasn't until late May of 2020 that much more alarming claims came to light. A person going by @LemonSavior on Twitter posted a thread detailing shocking allegations about Scrapt.tf staff. He went by Kurz on Discord, so we'll refer to him as Kurz. Kurz claimed that Jesse and multiple other adults on staff had been grooming minors that were moderators for the site, and this behavior presented itself in many forms. For example, the site's forum, like many forums, has badges and roles that can be assigned to users by staff, one being the Pony Plus badge. I forgot to mention, Jesse is into My Little Pony, as are many other staff members. In fact, there's a cross-section of MLP fans and TF2 fans that are active to this day. Anyways, the way one would acquire the Pony Plus badge was unorthodox to say the least, according to Kurz. His tweet read, "On May 6, I was alerted by a member of the Scrapt.tf community that Jesse Cardone solicited him for pictures of his ass when he was a minor in exchange for badges on the website." In the Discord screenshots attached to this image, the anonymous person elaborated, "Anon, to get the Pony Plus badge, you need to send Jesse a butt pic." Kurz, I always wondered how you got those. That's like the tramp stamp of Scrapt.tf. Anon, the thing is, I think it was illegal. Like, no offense, but there are minors on Scrapt.tf who have said role. I got mine 5 years ago. Or was it 4? Guess what? I'm 19 at the moment. Do the math and you'll figure out when I got it. According to this person, they were 14 or 15 when they were given a pony badge on the site for sending an explicit image of themselves. If true, Jesse, since he was born in 1996, would have been 19 or 20 at the time, making this clearly illegal and predatory. That being said, this is just one person's account. How do we know this is true at all? I mean, they could be making it up, right? Well, Kurz would actually confront a staff member named Lukey about this allegation, and Lukey's only response seemed to be to confirm these rumors. Kurz, I was told something that's pretty unbelievable and I wanted to ask you for some closure. I was told by an old community member in Scrapt.tf that, in order to get the Pony Plus badge, you need to send Jesse a butt pic. Lukey, lol, no, that's not the only way. Smiley face. Kurz, that's pretty f***ed up because multiple people have told me they were minors when they did that. Lukey, I just got it by being active in site chat and helping out, but knowing Jesse, it's probably true to some extent. Kurz, so he solicited minors for pictures of their ass. Upon that last message, Lukey would delete all the messages he sent to Kurz, which made the whole situation look even more suspect. This was already extremely concerning, but of course, the story didn't end there, and going into June 2020, more incriminating information would be released. According to multiple accounts, over the years, older staff had regularly made advances towards underage mods and solicited images from them. One such underage mod was Sandwhip, who would talk to other mods and staff over Telegram. He was 14 when he first applied to become a moderator, but to their knowledge, he was 15 because he lied about his age in his application. However, that age is still very much illegal. He would end up giving his side of the story, most of which took place during 2016 and 2017, when Jesse would have been 19 to 21 years old. Hey, so I was told that at the age of 16, you sent nude pictures of yourself to the staff team from Scrapt.tf. Specifically Jesse. Is this true? Yeah, though it wasn't specifically Jesse. But was Jesse one of the people who received the photos? Yes. And from what I understand, you were a moderator/admin at the time? Yeah, though it was also happening before that, though to a lesser extent. Did you gain your rank because of the photo? I doubt it. I was 14 to 15 at the time. 14 to 15 when you sent the picture? Yeah, but at that point I was sending them not because people asked me to, but because it seemed like the norm to do so. Were you ever asked to send one? If so, by who? Main people asking for them were 3XL Neat and Ben. 3XL Neat and Ben were other staff members at the time who were also in contact with Sandwhip over Telegram, which is where the pictures were exchanged. 3XL Neat, also known as Mark, would have been 18 in 2016, with these offenses stretching into his early 20s. Ben was also presumably an adult at the time. So Jesse gladly accepted them? Did he not reject them or be disgusted by them? Yeah, he took them gladly. Did he know you were 16 or did he bother to ask? Yeah, he knew my age. All the staff did. Did you ever feel like you were pressured in any way, shape, or form into sending them? Yeah, but very rarely. Do you believe Jesse or any other Scrapt.tf staff did the same to others? Oh, definitely. I don't know who though, but it definitely happened. There was also this Telegram group where most of the worst stuff happened. I'm no longer in it, so I don't have any logs, so you'll just have to trust me on this. Sandwhip linked a screenshot of a Telegram called Gay Club, where apparently a lot of these sexual exchanges took place. We will revisit this later, as it's relevant to a vital piece of evidence. Sandwhip continued. Also, in Jesse's recent post on the site, they said they removed all NSFW rooms in chat. Not true. I was 16 in 2017, it probably started when I was 15. The full list of people who got nudes while knowing my age are Jesse, 3XL Neats, Tyler, Ben, Catman Axel, Spike, and Twinkle Spark. They're who I've got on Telegram, Tyler and 3XL Neat being the main offenders. Sandwhip mentions a handful of other people here, so let's cover them as well. Tyler, a moderator, also went by Allure or Totally Batty, and we can see from his account on Scrapt.tf that he was born in 1999, making him 18 in 2017. He's only a year and a half older than Sandwhip, but because of how the law works, he's technically requesting nudes from a minor, even when he's 16 or 17 years old, so it would be illegal. That being said, as before with Jesse, many would likely not think much of a 1 or 2 year age gap. It's still well within the realm of a normal relationship where no power imbalance exists. Then there's Twinkle Spark, another moderator on the site who was born in 1997, making them 19 in 2016, and again, making it illegal if pictures were solicited. Spike, from what I can tell, is Spike the Baby Dragon on the Scrapt.tf forums, and there's no account going by Catman Axel on Scrapt.tf, but there is a small TF2 YouTube channel under that name. Those last two connections are just my speculation, so take them with a grain of salt, and of course, their respective ages are unclear. There were plenty of screenshots Sandwhip shared as proof, however, most of the potential evidence was lost due to him deleting his accounts a few times over the years. Of the evidence that remained, it implicated Jesse, Ben, Tyler, and Mark. But before we get into the screenshots, we have to establish that the accounts in question really belong to these people. We can see that Jesse had the username at Jesse Carr, and we know that he goes by Jesse Carr 96 on a lot of platforms. Plus, his profile picture is Twilight Sparkle. Funnily enough, he would later change his profile picture, perhaps to obscure his identity by removing a key identifier. Ben's account would end up being deleted, though it still popped up when searched for. Proving Tyler's ownership of the account is pretty straightforward, since his username is at Totally Batty, his profile picture is his skunk persona, and, well, he literally has his account linked on his Scrapt.tf page. Lastly, there's Mark, whose username was at M3XLNeat, and his profile picture was the same character as the one on his Scrapt.tf accounts. We also have proof of Sandwhip stating his age in the gay club group chat I mentioned before, which means everyone should have known his age, whether or not they had seen his moderator application, and whether or not they had personally asked or he had told them. With that out of the way, let's get to the evidence. We'll first cover the two main offenders according to Sandwhip, Tyler and Mark. Tyler, other than asking for nudes and trying to send Sandwhip furry porn, also admitted to possessing a video of him in the shower. I randomly found a video of you in the shower in my download. Didn't you send it to me? Probably. You don't send pics that often anymore, do you? As for Mark, he pressured Sandwhip for nudes and made specific requests, reprimanding him if he didn't comply, while sending pony pictures for some reason. Then there's Ben, whose exchanges with Sandwhip practically speak for themselves. Send me a video of you showering. Or Ben should have asked 12 hours ago. Why? Because I was having a shower 12 hours ago. Is that the last shower you'll ever have? Nah, then there shouldn't be a problem. How old are you? 17. Oh, so you're illegal. 18 soon. That makes it hotter, to be honest. Okay, that's just creepy. It's kinda hot that you're illegal. In a way, makes it more thrilling. Since a lot of the evidence was lost, evidence which would supposedly incriminate the others in the long list of people Sandwhip mentioned, that leaves us with these screenshots regarding Jesse himself. We see from these that Jesse explicitly requested pictures and videos from Sandwhip relating to his fetish, so it doesn't get much more concrete than that. The other main witness and victim of wrongdoing that came forward besides Sandwhip was Jamie, who similarly relayed his story over Discord. Jamie: basically I got groomed at 16. Scrap is weird, everyone takes nudes at young ages, it's the reason I wanted to get demoted. I'm glad Ben listened. I couldn't be a part of that community after what I saw. I've heard stuff about staff asking newer staff for nudes. Jamie: Pinky and Sandwhip took them at 16 and that's confirmed. Pinky got mod from it because she was gonna snitch. Anon: Jesse was up your ass when you became mod? Yeah, gave up after like 2 weeks and didn't DM me once after that. Anon: like the stuff you see in movies? Hey pretty boy or some shit like that? Jamie: usually teasing and asking if I wanted to join the NSFW channel, which I didn't want to. Jesse was allegedly trying to get sexual with Jamie, who he must have known the age of considering it would have been included on his mod application, but gave up when Jamie wasn't reciprocating. Jamie also mentioned someone named Pinky who supposedly got moderator status from sending nudes to staff, but there isn't any other info on this person, so that part remains unconfirmed. Although everything else so far is a lot as is. The other part of the allegations pertain to the site fiend.us, a private invite-only file sharing website for Jesse and his friends. Among other things, it apparently hosted pornography. The main claim was that a staff member named Lilith had put NSFW art on there of a character of a minor, who went by Funny. Even though the art wasn't of Funny and was of their character instead, it still implied she was sexualizing a minor, which many took issue with. The last thing was that Jesse was so adamant about silencing any discussion relating to the footrest incident that he had supposedly sent a mod of his to infiltrate Discord servers connected to the Scrapt.tf community, to look out for anyone who might be bad-mouthing him. The mod, who went by Pillsman Fox, had this to say: January of last year, Jesse had asked me to spy on a few Scrap-related Discords. Through me, he received images of people talking bad about him regarding things completely unrelated to Scrap, and this allowed him to ban a good amount of famous rafflers. Initially, there was Kurz' Twitter thread, but other people from the community came together on other platforms to investigate, compile, and spread all this info as well. One person being a TF2 YouTuber named Killjester, who made a video about the allegations, trying to spread awareness to hold Scrapt.tf accountable. All this gave a lot for Jesse to respond to, although he would do less responding and more retaliating. The thread by Kurz, or @LemonSavior, as well as his account, was allegedly mass reported by Jesse and his cohorts, seeing as he would end up being banned from Twitter. But according to Kurz, they took their efforts to screw him over one step further. I got mass reported on Twitter for exposing him. I was suspended 3 times in a row in only 2 days. Also, I'm not a racist, I did not sexually assault or harass anyone, and I'm not transphobic. I exposed someone for pedophilia, and in return he sent his friends and hound dogs to tell all my friends that I'm a racist, transphobic rapist. Most of my friends didn't care, but some of them actually took time to remove, block, and report me. As for Killjester, he privated his video after Scrapt.tf banned him and seemed to have a change of heart on the matter, though it's unclear why. In any case, Jesse would issue his first response to the situation on May 30th, although he didn't tackle the claims about him whatsoever. He posted a raffle with the following text: "You may have heard some allegations against me, and I want to clear some things up about it. I'm not going to link it here and don't post it in the comments, but this is for people that want a response. These accusations are being brought up by someone who is a part of our community, but has been banned many times for spamming, being immature, and never following the rules. They hold grudges against us, are anti-LGBT, and might be a part of a bigger hate group that's been after me for over a year now. Thank you to anyone that's actually looked at it and realized the evidence is just baseless conversations with no evidence. Others that know me know that there isn't any truth to this mess." Why didn't I see it before? The Kevin Spacey defense. The only reason people are antagonizing you is because you're gay, and they're in a bigoted conspiracy against you. Never mind the claims that you solicited CP. That's so unimportant in fact that you don't even have to mention it in your response. You just have to desperately ask your community not to go look at what the allegations actually consist of. Jesse chalked up the allegations to Kurz holding a grudge against him, but whether or not he followed the site's rules or had been banned in the past was irrelevant, because he wouldn't be the only one making accusations about Scrapt.tf staff by far, as we went over. He didn't even acknowledge that any of these conversations were real or anything took place. Instead, he just deflected to claiming their intentions were misguided. Going from May to June, as more information came out and victims came forward, this pushed Jesse to make a slightly more comprehensive, though still utterly insufficient response. He would post the following to the site's forums on June 7th. Our main point of community on Scrapt.tf is our chat system. It contains both public and private rooms, similar to what you find on Discord. Some lewd rooms have existed in the chat over the years, and they were used for sharing NSFW artwork, discussion of it, and some roleplay of that nature. In hindsight, the rules regarding lewd content in our chat were insufficient. In the past, we regretfully did not put much effort into validating that users entering those rooms were over the age of 18. Since most staff members are already close friends, some relationships and lewd activities have occurred between them, including myself. One of my best friends who I've known for a long time is Luna. Back in 2015, a mutual friend of ours got a hold of some of his photos because Luna liked to share them between friends. This friend proceeded to post one of these photos on 4chan's VG board for malicious reasons. I will obviously not show the photo, but it contains the words "Jesse's footrest" written on his chest, which is where the footrest incident stems from. At the time, Luna and I were in a relationship, and we are 2 years apart in age. After this leak, the photo was posted multiple times on Scrapt.tf by malicious people. About 30 users were initially banned from Scrapt.tf for posting this content and harassing us about the footrest photo. At one point, Gil created a raffle in order to identify some of the anonymous users posting this photo in order to preemptively ban them from our site so they couldn't spread it on Scrapt.tf. At least he was honest about the honeypot raffle and their moderation decisions. However, he only focused on Luna, when the real issue at hand were all of the other minors that Jesse and his friends allegedly interacted with. But Jesse didn't touch on any of that, at least in this response. One aspect of the story he did try to clarify was Lukey's response to Kurz. He tried to recontextualize their conversation to claim that what Lukey had said didn't confirm the idea that the Pony Plus badge was obtained in exchange for nudes, sometimes from minors. Lewd jokes were commonplace among friends in our chat, so that's what he thought of it as. His second reply to Kurz's question about minors was an honest mistake, and not reading what Kurz wrote, and is just not true. Whether or not he read what Kurz wrote, he said what he said. Knowing Jesse, it's probably true to some extent. What else could that possibly refer to, other than the original claim that Jesse solicits pictures in exchange for badges? And given the following response, if he really thought that minors were not involved, wouldn't he at least have deflected these claims instead of just deleting everything? I mean, the best case scenario interpretation of these messages is that Lukey affirmed the fact that nudes were a way to get the Pony Plus badge, but not thought that the news were coming from minors. In any case, this response doesn't address the minors that Kurz talked to, who testified to sending Jesse pictures when they were underage. Jesse could have fired back and said that Kurz was lying, or that those minors were lying, but he didn't even address that part of the allegations, which is worrisome. 3 others implicated in the allegations hopped on Jesse's thread to back him up: Tyler, Spike, and Twinkle Spark. While none of these screenshots we went over included Spike and Twinkle Spark, if you remember correctly, Sandwhip alleged that they too had received his nudes while knowing his age. The funniest part about their replies to the thread is that they act like uninvolved third parties simply litigating the situation, when in reality, they're on the list of supposed perpetrators. Twinkle opened up with, "I would like to expand upon what kind of people we are dealing with here." Rather than debunk any of the evidence at hand, Twinkle just goes on to make ad hominem statements about how Kurz is doing this because he's angry or something, and finished off by saying, "I hope the situation clears up soon for Jesse and everyone involved." Everyone involved includes you, according to my calculations. Twinkle also made the following comment: "They're the ones accusing without real proof though. All the things I've seen were conversations with possible implied meanings, but that might as well be taken out of context or baseless in the first place." Conversations with possible implied meanings? That's a funny way of referring to when Tyler said, "I love those balls," or when Ben made the request, "Send me a video of you showering," or Jesse's statement, "I want to watch you come." Tyler dropped a couple of replies on the thread as well, again, not really saying anything of substance. Spike rolled up to boldly make veiled lawsuit threats towards the people on the thread, trying to hold Jesse accountable. Unless you've got absolute proof of this, you might want to scale this back. This kind of thing can be illegal and can be investigated IRL. When you make this serious an accusation, you'd better have absolute proof, or you can get in trouble for this. The thread was closed on June 8th, and on June 9th, Mark deleted his Telegram history and Ben was silently banned from the site. Jesse would never condemn the actions of these now ex-staff members. He could have at least publicly acknowledged that wrongdoing had taken place and just claimed it was on the part of other people rather than him. But then again, if he did that, people would start asking how he, a supposedly innocent man, could have such a sketchy friend group. There's also no indication that Jesse ever investigated if there were any more victims that hadn't come forward yet, which was telling that he only cared about the site's image rather than damage done to the minors involved. Of course, not any more telling than the fact that he supposedly engaged in these same behaviors himself. Other people would get a hold of Jesse and Mark over Discord later on in June to press them on the issue of all their lewd Telegram chats with Sandwhip. One such person was a TF2 YouTuber named Whammo, who, like Killjester, had also made a video exposing Scrapt.tf at the time. In his interactions with Jesse, Jesse feigned ignorance of Sandwhip's age. Whammo: "So you're trying to say you didn't know Sandwhip was underage when you pressured him for photos?" Jesse: "I did not pressure him for photos. He took them on his own and asked if I wanted them. Either way, I was not aware of his age." Whammo then responded with the proof from before that Jesse explicitly requested photos and a video of Sandwhip ejaculating, and Jesse's response was, "I assumed he was 18 because others would do stuff with him too. He posted his application long before we did any of that stuff. It was my fault to not check for it, and I'm sorry for not doing that." The pattern of Jesse ignoring or denying claims until the proof is right before his eyes is once again repeated. Here, we finally have an admission from Jesse that the conversations staff were having were real and were sexually charged. He had abandoned the narrative all his cohorts had been peddling up until that point, that the evidence was nothing more than out of context conversations that were being misconstrued. He came out and said he was sexual towards Sandwhip because, quote, "others would do stuff with him too." Jesse also ignored that he had just been caught in a lie by Whammo, his lie being that he never propositioned Sandwhip, and instead just reiterated the claim that he didn't know Sandwhip's age because the application that had mentioned it was submitted so long before their sexual interactions that he didn't remember or didn't mentally connect the two. However, according to Sandwhip, this was a lie. That's just a flat lie. It was happening prior to that. Pair this with the fact that Sandwhip mentioned how old he was in the Telegram group chat, it seems very unlikely that Jesse didn't know his age. And if he genuinely didn't, then frankly he had no excuse not to. Mark would also respond, but he would admit to his wrongdoing, although he tried to use his age to basically excuse it. "I was 17 when I started in 2015 and was in my early 20s at latest. I grew up in an environment which was mostly lewd. So that's why you asked for CP? I deeply apologize for what I did, there's no excuse." Mark would also post a longer response that reiterated the same basic points. As for what role Gil, the co-owner of the site, had in all of this, he wasn't implicated in any of the allegations aside from running the honeypot raffle back in 2015, and just generally making disagreeable moderation decisions. However, some people criticize his response for being lackluster, which he would address. What I'm trying to do is navigate how to handle my partner, and someone I consider a friend, being accused of genuinely awful things. I've been trying to figure out how to reconcile my responsibility to a friend to grant them a modicum of trust, versus my responsibility to address this as genuinely and honestly as I can, and I probably haven't been handling it well, given there are days where I've just laid in bed or on the couch catatonically, simultaneously filled with anxiety and yet an inability to act on that anxiety. Scrapt.tf hasn't had serious developer work put into it on my part for years, and the way it determines prices of items is fucking stupid, especially in 2020. Marketplace is a fucking joke. Shit on the sites all you want, visiting them makes me feel ill and anxious. I'd probably agree with many criticisms you have of them. A lot of this post was just him elaborating on his rattled mental state from living an unhealthy lifestyle, rather than getting into the nitty-gritty details of what was going on with Jesse. So it didn't help the investigation. That being said, he seemed to take it pretty hard that his friend and business partner in his greatest venture had been accused of being such a disgusting person. After all of this, people would talk about the drama and document it in videos from time to time, but it mostly fizzled out. Scrapt.tf is still up to this day, and Jesse Cardone and his friends and ex-staff never faced any real consequences for their actions. Well, with one exception. Because Whammo had forwarded the evidence to the police, he claimed this launched an investigation of sorts, and that public records showed that they had actually obtained a search warrant against Jesse Cardone. Whether this was indeed the case though, and whether anything came of it, I don't know, because Jesse and Gil's enterprises have just kept chugging along. There wasn't much that could be done to take down Jesse except to encourage people to use other sites and report him to the authorities, because Jesse wasn't a user or staff member on the site, he was its co-owner, and his alleged accomplices were other mods and staff. They're not going to do an investigation on themselves, find themselves guilty, and then fire themselves. The crimes of the others, like Ben, Mark, and Tyler, are undeniable, but even if you think Jesse is completely innocent through some Sisyphean effort of ignorance of the eyes of his moderators, and the suspicious conduct of those around him, he's at the very least shown himself to be completely incapable of creating a safe environment for the minors that will inevitably be using his sites, and that fact alone is enough to warrant action. Usually what prevents the resolution of situations like these is a lack of information, but in this case there's no shortage of awareness in the TF2 community about what really went on. Jesse's objectionable behavior has been at the very least a topic of discussion for 7 years, and has been extremely well known for the past 2. It sucks. I think that's probably all you can really say. It fucking sucks. TF2, more so than other games, lends itself to the emergence of content creators in this community. This is because of the custom items we went over before. You change your appearance not by generic skins, but down to individual pieces of clothing. The game's capacity for customization means you can create your own totally unique character, and as such, easily recognizable figures start to crop up, such as popular influencers. But while some may have a positive connotation, other people are recognized for their notoriety. Back in 2018 and 2019, Mecha was an active YouTuber in the community. He peaked at around 14k subscribers, which may not sound like a lot, but in a game with a relatively small scope, it's kind of a big deal to have a subscriber count in the tens of thousands. While that number may seem measly in comparison to the following of someone like Mr. Beast, in the TF2 world, it's enough to make people treat you differently than the common folk. They'll be excited to play with you or against you in games, they'll try to get close to you in your server, and if they see anything out of the ordinary, maybe they're inclined to overlook it, either because they gave you the benefit of the doubt, or they're scared of what would happen if your fan base turned against them. Mecha made his videos, was an active player and competitive, collaborated with other TF2 YouTubers, and that was about it. The only bit of foreshadowing that something could be wrong to those on the outside looking in was a tweet he made on April 27th, 2019 about his Discord server. Funny how history repeats itself, huh? Well, once again, the Mecha Cave of Gold, or COG, has now been shut down again after a massive downward spiral and many users and even staff. Normally I would reopen it, but I'm gonna be like Valve and not do this a third time. Thanks. So, objectionable things were taking place on his Discord server, and he had to shut it down, and apparently, this was the second time this had happened. It's open to interpretation what he meant by downward spiral, so naturally, most people who saw this tweet probably thought it was something innocuous, like server members being chaotic or toxic. However, Mecha would end up deleting this tweet, an omen of what was to come. Darty, another smaller TF2 YouTuber, released a video on May 14th, 2019 titled, The Dark Side of Mecha. Mecha was someone Darty had previously collaborated with on videos, dating all the way back to 2017. If he was all of a sudden going up against his very own friend, it had to be for a good reason, right? As it turns out, it most certainly was, because Mecha, who claimed to be 19 at the time, was using his Discord to prey on minors in the community. He presumably used his server to find these underage boys and girls and establish contact with them. However, he ended up meeting his victims. He would always start by building a base level of friendship with them, and escalated his disgusting behavior from there. Of the known victims, the first was a 12-year-old boy named Sandwhip. According to Sandwhip, he and Mecha played TF2 together on a regular basis, and he considered him a friend. However, things started going south when Sandwhip, being so young, thought it would be funny to moan in voice chats on the server. This led to Mecha direct messaging him, and starting what would be an exceedingly odd conversation about the incident, to say the least. Sandwhip, how even old are you? Like, what are you? I'm a prepubescent lolly boy who moans in a VC. Sandwhip J had told Mekarek he was 12, and Mekarek went on to say that the moaning made him, quote-unquote, contemplate something real bad. In other words, that it aroused him. But obviously, he doesn't want to blatantly say that, lest he expose his true intentions right out of the gates. Oof, well congrats, Sandwhip. You made a man contemplate something real bad tonight. I will need many drinks after this. F for your mental health. Boy, you're the one moaning like an anime girl expecting to get a reaction. Would it not be alien for me to get a little aroused or something like that, regardless of who it's from? You can see him already trying to justify his behavior by implying his attraction is not towards the victim, but towards the victim's behavior, which would supposedly be arousing coming from anyone. If I had to guess, he does this because he thinks it softens the blow. Rather than come out and tell your victim that you're sexually attracted to them, which very obviously makes you a pedophile, say that their behavior is involuntarily making your body respond in a way that you totally don't want it to. Mekarek proceeds to act as if Sandwhip is the one with power, while he himself is weak and is somehow at the mercy of a child. Because the child can subject him to desires he definitely doesn't want whatsoever. It's immediately obvious how ridiculous of a claim that is once you say it out loud, but that's the unspoken implication he's trying to make here. You moan one more time, I will send you to the Shadow Realm. That sounds fun. Sandwhip, do not toy with me. I am a weak-ass man. I am a very interesting person away from the screens and whatnot. The last thing I need to set my dark side off is by someone on Discord moaning like an anime girl over and over. Talking about your dark side is quite the LARPy way to say that you are a pedophile, but I digress. He continues. In brief, I'm extremely lustful. That is mainly what my dark side is. No bad intentions, no destructive behavior, just me being a naughty bastard. That's right, he has no bad intentions, just devious thoughts. Again, Mekarek says this to downplay the predatory nature of his actions, because he means no harm, he's just a naughty boy. That's also to de-emphasize the role of his free will and what he does. Nonetheless, he continued to expound upon the intricacies of his sexual desires to a prepubescent child. I mean, it wouldn't be inherently wrong if it wasn't the child doing it. It was for shock value and the reaction. Shrug. I can handle it, it's just that regardless of reaction, the wonder down under lurks. Great, using innuendos to talk about your penis to a 12-year-old kid. If it wasn't bad enough, Mekarek started talking about how he masturbates too much, using innuendos again, presumably because he wants to come off as funny to the minor he's speaking to, instead of weird and disgusting, which is what this is. Mecha, well, I do handle the joystick too much. How much is way too much? 20 times an hour? Well, it's not that much. Try 4 times a day. How does he get anything done? You know what? Never mind. I don't really want to think about it. To close off the conversation, Mekarek just came out and said he thought about secretly masturbating on the call and asking Sandwhip J to moan for him, still framing it as if he simply couldn't restrain himself from doing so. Absolutely horrific stuff. Mecha, it's fine, I'm a man of honesty, but it's these things that I kinda need to keep secret from the populace. You didn't really break me, but more contemplated ripping something out in secrecy. Fucking hell. Cheers, but please do not get me in this mood, because it's either my attention is brought to something else, or I ask you to moan for me. It goes one way or the other. Well, until then, I have to mainly find ways to deal with the dispensers until I can find out a good therapist. If you're wondering what he means by dispensers, he's using TF2 lingo to refer to his erections in a more PG way. I honestly can't tell if I should chalk this up to him being a man-child or a child predator. Maybe it's a bit of both. As for how this all affected Sandwhip J, he testified that it was only later on that the gravity of the situation sank in for him.
I was nonchalant about it, and I didn't really care, and then looking back I'm like, that's fucked up.
Unfortunately, Sandwhip was just the beginning. With Mecha's next victim, he would take things even further. This time his advances were towards a 15-year-old boy, another friend of Mecha's in the server who he played games with. This kid was an artist and drew commissions for people. Ahegao commissions. Why on earth is a 15-year-old making art of a pornographic nature for adults, you may ask? I would answer that, but by now you should know better than to question the Lovecraftian horrors of our society as if they had some kind of rhyme or reason behind them. But yes, the real answer is that Discord servers and their consequences have been a disaster for the human race. This kid was about to make a Ahegao art of Mekarek as a joke when people in the server said he should do a lolly version of Mecha instead. What did I just say about Discord servers? In any case, Mecha instantly latched onto this idea. He liked it so much, in fact, that he offered to give the kid an item from his inventory if he went through with making the art. Out of any age group of consumer, in-game items are most alluring to minors, but they're also the demographic that typically doesn't have the money to buy them. As simple as it seems, this proposition would be enough to get a lot of kids on board with a lot of strange requests, and it makes the situation all the more insidious. When the kid sent him the lolly drawing, Mekarek escalated the conversation by saying it had made him horny. Mecha, me wrecked like dispenser machine from Squad Citadel II. Anon, I didn't know you were into lollies. Mekarek, used to, but nonetheless, me hard boy now. Fuck. Mimi wrecked? Mimi hardboy? I'd be laughing right now if this wasn't so revolting. Nonetheless, he continued with a spiel similar to what he told Soup J. To put it in the lightest terms possible, I got a dark side that shows when stuff like this is around. Regardless, I'm now in that mood and I can't escape. Anon, take it out on Starry. Mecha, no, why not you? Anon, I've seen enough hentai to know where this is going. Mecha, I guess that's more the interactive factor to it, you know? I'd ask for help, but I don't know. Trust me, I'm the last person you would want to ask. Nah, I could see worse, it's up to you. And how may I help then? Go wank it off, fam. I will, but got nothing to help it with. It doesn't work because it's fake as shit. Hentai is meh. It just really falls on the assistance of others to help me through this shit. It's really the only good way. Again, it's up to you. I got a few more days that work, but some being more demanding than others. Go for it. Pics of what, lol? You. What? Yeah. This time he went as far as trying to solicit pictures from a minor, insisting that he desperately needed to help speed along the process of his sexual gratification, and that there was absolutely nothing else he could do to satisfy him. The last thing this victim wanted to do was be material for a pedophile to jack off to, so he declined to send pictures, though he still maintained a polite tone in doing so due to all the pressure Mekarek had put on him. I'm sorry, but I don't feel very comfortable. Yeah, that's what a lot of people say. It's not uncommon I get that response. I am but a depraved person looking to relieve myself of an addiction. This person ended up blocking Mekarek and disappearing for a while, which prompted Soup J, who had found out about the aforementioned interaction, to confront Mekarek with screenshots of the messages asking if he was serious. His response? I wasn't actually serious. If I was serious, I would have been way more direct. I don't know, it sounded pretty direct to me, considering you were trying to have a change my mind style debate with this guy on why he should send you nudes. Regardless of it being a joke or not, the conversation continued. Redacted is a good guy. I don't want him leaving all these friendships behind because I was dumb with my wording. Make a few dumb decisions with your wording and everything goes to hell. Ah yes, the wording, so important. This all could have been avoided if you had used Grammarly. Who the f says I'm a depraved man with a crippling addiction and means it? Well, you, apparently. Hell, I even use the bold font. I don't use fonts when conveying a real topic, but what I do have is the world's worst sentence follow-ups. Never have been good with it. I would have expected Redacted to simply just retort with some statement after I said my final message to him, like literally any person I've talked to, but he just runs away and doesn't actually hear me out. Was it my fault to believe everyone is the same in that regard? Yes. Was it my fault that I worded everything in there horribly? Yes. Was I serious about asking a male for nudes when I'm clearly straight? No. Clearly straight. If I were to be genuinely asking for his help on that, I would have been much worse. Where to even begin? The series of messages in question he sent were so clearly desperate, how he kept pestering and pressuring the victim, talking about his supposed problem that could only be solved with this particular child, because I guess the onus falls on others to charitably assist him when he's in need, and you telling that whole elaborate spiel about how you're a pedophile is all for a joke? Where's the punchline? Not only that, but when Mecha does this to other people, as just a prank, they always immediately recognize it as a mere gag. Someone mistakenly thinking it was serious, on the other hand, was an unprecedented turn of events, considering how obviously comedic Mecha's tone was. Oh, and of course, as he says, if he was really trying to pressure nudes out of someone, he would have been much more relentless. What a testament to his good character. In any event, Mecha wrapped up the conversation by saying he hoped the 15-year-old would forgive and forget. That's right, kids. If a pedophile ever tries to victimize you, why cry over spilled milk when you can act like nothing ever happened? Surely, if you catch him in the act once, he'll be too ashamed to ever try again, right? We'll get to that later. Actually, we'll get to it right now. The third victim was a 16-year-old, and the interaction went much the same way as the other two. I mean, there is one thing I gotta do. What's that? Handle a joystick. Ah, I see. Not many know it, but every second of each day, I'm happier than a brass band. I can tell. Oh, but yeah, me got problemerinos. You done erecting your dispenser? Nope, still going. Takes me way too long. Sucks. This shit can go on for hours. 'Tis a weird world. The spacing between these messages shows he kept sending a new message after an interval of time had passed, with no response from the victim, indicating how desperate he was to get something out of them. The 16-year-old would finally respond. Erectile dysfunction? More like malfunction for me. It's only been 3 hours. Only? Yeah, sometimes it goes up to 7 hours if I can finish it all. I ain't a busy guy, so I just let it happen. I just try and mask it because of the long times. There are very few things that'll make it quicker by a metric ton, but I digress. I'm still going. 7 hours? That's an entire work day. What the hell is wrong with this guy? If I could be honest with you for a second, you kind of make me feel this way sometimes, as insane as it sounds. Well, at least I'm helping in some way, lol. Yeah, even though I got a GF, I can't gloss over people or the things that get me like this. It just ain't possible or mentally healthy to do so. He's preying on underage boys while having a girlfriend, all while claiming it's not mentally healthy to ignore other people he's interested in for the sake of being faithful to his relationship. Well, since he cares about mental health so much, what about the mental health of his girlfriend, or of those literal children who he's trying to solicit from? Nonetheless, he kept pushing. Regardless, truth's out. You turn me on. Well, that's a boost to the old self-esteem, and a boost to my third leg. Now, I would go and ask you for something relating to this, but I can tell what'll happen. What do you mean? I mean, I kind of need help with this. If I've lasted this long, it means nothing have worked so far. Where are you going with this? I mean, you're one of my best friends in my opinion. The last thing I want is my dumb driving you away. Well, it's not like you asked me for pics of my asshole or something, Lamal. I mean, I didn't say I didn't want that either. Yo, I'm done. It's over. I'm done. It's over. For the past 4 hours, I've been doing the same thing. Something from a friend that really turns me on wouldn't be impossible, just bizarre at first glance. I just want to end this shit. Nothing right now is working. Would you not be somewhat upset from doing the same thing for 4 hours just to get a few seconds of pleasure? I mean, a little bit, but I'd probably just keep it to myself. There is one thing that works, doesn't require anything at all, just a sound. A sound? Yeah, my absolute biggest weakness is the simple sound of moaning. Just help a friend out. I know, but I also don't feel comfortable doing it. It's nothing personal. I know a guy has his needs, but I just can't. Well, how do you think you were gonna go about it if it did happen? Were you gonna go into Discord VC or record yourself? I guess record? Then would it not be a problem to record something like that? It would be a problem for me mentally. Oh, well then I will just leave all this in the no-no drawer.
I felt like he had ulterior motives, like when we first met. Like, after he basically was like, trying to use me to bust a fat nut. I was thinking one of two things. I was thinking that one, he was either trying to get stuff to blackmail me with, or two, he only wanted to be friends with me because he wanted that shit out of me.
The story of the fourth victim is basically the same shtick, so I'll spare you all the chat logs. This guy was in a relationship, which Mecha was aware of, but still tried to hit him up when he was in one of his moods. When he first did this, the guy thought he was joking. Mecha approached him a second time just 5 hours later, and when this guy realized he was being serious, he told Mecha not to come to him with that kind of stuff. So he did it again later that same day. Upon getting a resounding no as an answer to his approaches, he told the victim not to tell anyone about it. The fifth victim was another person that Mecha asked to moan for him, and after unfortunately complying with his requests, he immediately left the voice chat in shame, and became extremely worried about what he had done. He was worried that Mecha had recorded it, that it could be used against him, and embarrassed that such a file even existed on someone's hard drive.
So I went into panic mode. I went running to a friend, started DMing them about like the whole thing, telling them what just happened and all that, and how scared and scarred pretty much I was, and how dumb I was for actually doing it.
I know that's a lot to go over, but Mecharek was quite the serial offender. That's not even the worst part of it though, believe it or not. You may have noticed that I omitted details about the date which each of these incidents took place. You're probably thinking it took him at least a few months to do all of this. Nope. 4 weeks. This is how much damage he did from September 14th, 2018 to October 15th, 2018. 4 weeks. And that's only when Darty and others caught on and started documenting his offenses. Had he already been doing this prior to September, racking up more victims in the process? Well, when Soup J confronted Mecha later on in April 2019, before the expose went live, he admitted to doing the same thing in August, so we have that at least. Taking other factors into consideration, there's also a good possibility he had indeed been at this for a while. The way Mecha talked to his targets, saying it usually fell on other people to help him with this problem, implied that this was the norm for him. He showed a good bit of familiarity with his dark side, as though he had already thoroughly explored what he was capable of. Not to mention the fact that he was confident in breaking out these same lines over and over again, slowly prodding the victim, trying to get them inch closer and closer to doing what he wanted. There's one more person Mecharek preyed on, the only girl of those documented, who confirmed these suspicions that his predatory behavior went back much further than he wanted people to think. She made a thread on Twitter to describe Mecharek's disgusting behavior towards her. With the recent allegations that have come against Mecharek, I do want to put my own story to this. To make a long story short, Mecharek would constantly pressure me to moan for him. He would constantly be pressuring me into uncomfortable scenarios, such as ERP. To start off, I will disclose I was not of age when most of this happened. Mecha was. This first started happening with Mecharek flirting with me around May of 2017. I paid no mind to this as I thought it was all simple jokes. This all continued until he finally confessed to me that whenever I talk to him, he gets turned on, and then begins to touch himself. During calls, this would frequently happen, where he'd begin to masturbate audibly in one of the calls. I would constantly ask him to stop, and simply a week later, he'd forget and do it again. It came to a close for a short time when I had threatened to go public with what he had said. He pleaded and begged me not to, and I gave in. again. I'd forgiven him, and things went back to what seemed like a normal time for us. This continued until around November, when Mecha slowly started alluding to the fact that he would be masturbating again. This reached a peak point when he would ask if I could moan for him. I quietly gave in, and we performed the session. This ended quickly as he had been building it up for a while. We both agreed to never speak of this again, as it would get him in trouble, and it would embarrass me. He thanks me multiple times for helping him out, and acts like a saint to me for a couple of months until around March 2018. He again asked me to moan for him, and during this time, another victim who was also being asked to do the same thing, who shall remain nameless. The nail in the coffin in the nigh inconceivable scenario that all of the aforementioned screenshots and testimonies were fabricated was a recorded admission of guilt by Mecha to one of his innumerable crimes, included in Darty's collection of evidence.
You remember when we were talking about Wizard NG?
Yes.
Did you do anything with him that is like over the line?
Like define over the line.
Like video chat, like anything like that. Did you do that?
Yes.
Like specifically what?
Well, him and I masturbated together.
How old was he?
How old was Wizard?
He was
16.
16?
My god!
Oh my... no!
You'd think all of this would be enough to constitute a closed case right off the bat, but a lot of Mecha friends in the TF2 community didn't take kindly to Darty's video. They either attacked him or took to defending Mecha's character. They didn't flatly deny the allegations because they couldn't at this point. They just downplayed their severity by saying that Mecha was really sorry. Mecha really is trying his best to, well, get over all of that. I've been there for him longer than anyone else. I've known him for 4 years. His birthday is in 13 days. The last thing I want for him is to be completely misunderstood. He knows what he did is wrong and is admitting to it, which I think is a huge step for him. To my knowledge, this was an attack on Mecha to put him at his worst. Guys, come on, listen, I know he's a pedophile, but his birthday, it's in 2 weeks. So these kids should be expected to wait to expose him. Meanwhile, he can't be expected to wait until these kids' birthday before he starts lusting after them. The logic is truly impeccable. Impeccably stupid. Doomsday.exe, one of the TF2 YouTubers on Darty's side, would also end up making a video on the controversy and got a response from Mecha himself along similar lines. Doomsday, I know you're probably sick of me and what I did, but I want to let you know a few things if you wish to hear me out. I made an updated apology, actually telling the people involved that I'm apologetic and not wanting to be some kind of monster, but I know that isn't enough. Words don't speak louder than actions, but I just want everyone that isn't on a hate bandwagon against me to realize that I'm trying to find some way to fix this. Trying to find some way to fix this? Just stop doing it. This isn't something accidental. It takes time and planning to groom minors. It's not like you slipped and fell and hit your head on your keyboard and whoops, now you just accidentally asked a kid for pictures on Discord and then a sitcom laugh track plays and the police handcuff you. Once he saw that the tide of public opinion wasn't going in his favor anytime soon, Mecha took the nuclear option and deleted everything. I don't know when exactly this took place, but by May 26, his Twitter was gone. His last bit of known activity online was in 2020, when another TF2 YouTuber got a hold of a person claiming to be Mecha over Twitter DMs, though this should be taken with a grain of salt for obvious reasons. I have lost my hope and trust in the TF2 community after a bunch of people lied to me. Despite what people tell you, I have gone to therapy. I found a new therapist back in July, and I've been seeing her since then. I've made actual efforts to never fall into that kind of inhuman pile of trash that was me, but people just don't know or just really don't care. He said he was getting help, which he had already lied about once, while still not owning up to the gravity of what he did and blaming everything on the community. So he clearly hadn't changed, but that's seemingly the last that anyone ever heard of him. Mecha displayed much more manipulative cunning than you typically see amongst the degenerates that I cover. Most of them come out and more or less declare their intentions to their victims off the bat, that they're sexually attracted to them, that they want to be in a relationship with them, and that they want to do sexual things both online and possibly in person. Mecha was different. He would always begin with a self-deprecating tone, as if acknowledging his own depravity and joking about it somehow made it okay. A lot of the time, he wouldn't outright say that he was attracted to the victims, just that he had a problem. He wouldn't outright say he wanted to be in a relationship or have some kind of interaction, just so they could help him out. He tried to phrase everything as if they were just buddies, doing something someone would do for a good friend. And necessarily, if you won't help out a friend in need, that makes you a bad person, doesn't it? It's emotional blackmail. He likes to frame the interaction, especially with his younger victims, as platonic, rather than the reality, which was that they were subjects of a pedophile's lust. It's incredibly sickening, and I pray he isn't still out there under a different name. Wherever kids congregate online, there will always be creeps trying to infiltrate them. Come to find out, this dynamic is on steroids when microtransactions are involved, as if loot boxes didn't already have enough of a bad rep. I just wish that these creeps were forced to live under the Snowden regimen, permanently forbidden from coming within 100 feet of an electronic device. Would do the world a favor. Regardless, I've been Turkey Tom, thanks for watching, and until next time, leave me alone.
just not that funny anymore.